Hey everybody, hello, hello.
Hey, everybody, how y'all doing?
How are we doing this evening?
Excellent.
Fantastic.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So we're streaming officially on YouTube. Want to say hello to everybody here. People are coming in on YouTube. They're coming in on Zoom. So want to say hello. We're going to give everybody about 3 minutes to come on in. So, and I will say, of all the blockchain chats I think we've ever done, this is the least prepared that I am.
It's all right.
So, this is going to be more of an overall discussion this evening, and a Q&A session, and a weekend Q&A with Talisha and Eric about these NFTs. And the discussion overall is going to be about the future of the business of blockchain, and how we can leverage it. This is going to officially be our last month of blockchain chat. So you got us for another 4 or 5 sessions, something like that. Actually, 5 sessions. So we see here we've got people in Zoom. We want to say hello to Denise and Jennifer. We've got Dr. Tammy in YouTube. We've got other people in YouTube. So people are filing in. Want to say hello to everybody this evening.
So today I attended day 1 of the national briefing of Women in Color and Blockchain. I was selected as a delegate, yes. So there's over 60 of us, and amazing content. I just couldn't even understand. I was just like, why? Every session was even better and better and better. There were U.S. representatives, senators. Senator Loomis was their closing remarks today. So, she's the senator from Wyoming who is even creating course material for her fellow, her constituents, as well as the individuals that she works with, to get them up to speed. But just the level of conversation and the hopefulness, I think that was one of the things I took away, was just everybody understands and is really just looking forward to the future. What we can do in the present to expedite that future, because it's coming and everybody is real clear about that. It's just, now what do we do? And the theme of this session is small businesses as the engine to the crypto economy, and basically to the US economy, truthfully. Mm-hmm. And why small businesses, the necessary aspects. And I think this ties in across the board. We talk about this all the time, from here to the 10K project. It's really about how small business truly is where the innovation comes from. This is where the companies come from, and what we need to do, and how they just service people. That was the key aspect, how they truly do. Enterprise really just kind of are ancillary. They help themselves at this point, but small businesses really help the communities that they serve, and why they need to be helped back. That was the whole point. Why is there not a reciprocity in making sure they not only thrive and survive and get to that point, but what can the legislation do for them as well, to give them that ability to do that? Because right now they can't do it.
Right. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
It was just unpacked, and it was just day 1. So I'm waiting to see what day 2 brings, because I was like, oh my goodness, it's just amazing.
Yeah, I was invited. I get invited to so much these days. I'm sorry I wasn't able to come, but I definitely want to hear some of the replays from those sessions. And we all have been studying this topic for 3 years. We know how big this industry is going to be, and we definitely want to, there's so much that happens within the industry that you do kind of have to plug in at least once a week somewhere, finding a place where you are able to go and network with people and hear what the latest projects are and what people are doing within the industry. So I definitely want to hear more of your debrief, Talisha. What I'm going to do is start off with You know, if it's Wednesday, it's blockchain day. So welcome to Blockchain Chat. I am Cherie of Black Blockchain Consultants. I'm here with Talisha Shine and Eric. Oh my gosh.
She's going to call you Eric Shine in a minute. We're going to have swapping names.
I know it's been a minute, Cherie, but
you know you want my last name. You know you do.
Eric Spence. Yeah. Oh my goodness. Okay. So yes, we're here with Eric Spence and Talisha Shine here to talk about the business of blockchain. And I'm going to give them a couple of minutes to introduce themselves. And then I'm going to tell you a little bit more about BBC, what we're doing, what's happening during the month of March. And then we're going to dive right into, and then I have a surprise. Actually, I have a surprise announcement for everybody. So stay close to your devices because I'm going to need some feedback from you. And I think you're going to like my surprise. And then we're going to go into tonight's session. So Talisha, Eric, one of you wants to tell everyone what you guys do?
Go ahead, Mr. Shine. Go ahead.
Mr. and Mrs. Shine.
Go, right. Mr. and Mrs. Smith here. That's what we're going to be.
That's too fun. Yes, hi everyone. Eric Spence. I am BBC Inner Circle member and tokenization maximalist. And that's just it. That is the hill I will die on. And I'm not moving away from it. And yeah, I'm really excited. Always have been excited to come in and talk blockchain with the community, and couldn't be happier than be here today.
Hey, Talisha?
I am Talisha Shine. I'm the admin of the BBC Facebook group and also Inner Circle member. I don't want to die on any hill, but I'm your tech advisor. So I talk all about the true technical aspects behind the business, but it always is, that's the tech behind the trend. We always need to talk about the trend. So that's why we're here to discuss that, because that's the moneymaker.
Absolutely. So I'm just going to share my screen really quickly with you and tell you, if you are new, especially all of our people in YouTube, we want to say hello to you. Welcome. We are Black Blockchain Consultants, and our whole mission is to educate people about the new blockchain careers that are coming so that you can discover new blockchain opportunities. If you want to start a blockchain business, we talk about the business of blockchain here. Also investing in blockchain projects, whether you're investing time or money in a project, and ultimately, how do we build wealth in this $3.1 trillion industry? We are going to come back to this, but mainstream adoption is coming. So this is a very famous graphic that shows how mainstream adoption happens within any technology. You have the innovators that come in, and I would say the innovators within the blockchain industry were through, I would say 2017, maybe early 2018. And now you have early adopters coming into the system. The second chasm is the big one where a lot of money is made. And the people who are early adopters really get to ride the wave up as the early majority and late majority comes into the industry. So we want to make sure as many of our people as possible are positioned to take advantage of the big chasm that's happening here. We geek out over tokenization of assets, smart contracts, and blockchain security overall. We do love all aspects of blockchain, but we believe that these three areas are going to be the three areas where we, as individuals and as a people, can make a big difference and make a big dent and ultimately build wealth for ourselves and the community. So for March, tonight, it's the three of us here with all of you talking about the business of blockchain. Next week, we've got the lovely Nadja Roberts coming in to talk about crypto. She's got two wonderful locations, one in Los Angeles and one in Chicago. So most of you know who Nadja is. She's super great. On March 17th, we have Professor Dr. Xavier Bruce coming in. He teaches blockchain and supply chain. And he reached out to us and said, hey, I want to come and be a guest on Blockchain Chat. So I think you all will enjoy that. Another person who reached out to us, Bettina, She is going to come back and talk about user design and UX, UI, and blockchain. That is her lane within blockchain, and she does very well as a UI specialist. And then the 31st is our last blockchain chat. I don't know what we're going to talk about. It'll be a surprise, but we'll come up with something super great. So we want to let you know what's happening for March. Also, if you want to take the Blockchain 101 course or any of the other courses that we have, they're still up on blockchainstudies.tech. And of course, you're able to meet us in Discord. And as Talisha and Eric are speaking, I will go and get that link and make sure that all of you have it so that you're able to join us. There are close to 100 of us in Discord already, and we have a good time there. So wanted to make sure you had all of that information. And now, drum roll for my surprise.
Yes.
Okay. About a month ago, I was contacted by a gentleman from Deloitte Consulting, who runs the blockchain division of Deloitte. We had a conversation with him. He said, I really like your group. Let me go talk to my people and come back to you. And he came back to me today and asked if we want to have an informational session with him the last 2 weeks of March. So this is going to be for members only. Members only benefit. Membership has its privileges. If you're not a member, you can bribe Talisha to get in some sort of way.
It only takes 1 Bitcoin. That's it. Like if you do that, and you might get in.
Bitcoin works.
Yes, bribe her with Bitcoin. Okay. But number one is, I don't want to waste my time setting this up if no one is going to show up. So put a 1 in the chat if you would come to an informational session with a senior level member of Deloitte. Put a 2 in the chat if you would not come. All right, I'm seeing a lot of 1s in here. Okay. And I know that YouTube has a lag. Okay. Number 2 is, I think this may have to be during the daytime. I will try, put a 2 in the chat if you would prefer for it to be during, if I can set it up during our mastermind session. Put a 2 in the chat if instead of having mastermind, which is that 4th Monday, March 22nd at 7:30, if we have him come instead, if you would be okay with that. I don't know if he would work in the evening, so you may have to do a lunchtime session. Okay, so I'm starting to see 2s in here. I'll ask him about the evening, but my final question is, if we want to do a brown bag lunch with him, does like a 1 p.m. Eastern time, so those of you who are Central time could still do lunch at noon, does that work? Put a 3 in the chat if that works. If that doesn't work, give me some times of days, the times where that could potentially work for you. Okay, I'm seeing a lot of 3s. So my first choice with him is to try to get him for the mastermind session. If I can't, I'm going to try to set it up for 1 p.m. Eastern time for everybody, and that way it can be a brown bag lunch. Talisha, Eric, do you all have any thoughts, want to chime in, anything like that with regards to this opportunity?
I think March 29th is actually the last, that was the Monday, you said the 22nd, so.
Oh, because I thought it was always the 4th Monday of the month.
You want to do the 4th? I thought it was the last, but that's fine too, because then we could move, if you wanted to, we could actually move the mastermind to that final, if he can come. So I'm good with any of those dates, but if they like the mastermind, so we can keep going.
Okay, perfect. So then thank you so much, everyone on Zoom here and on YouTube for participating. So Prudence is asking, are these sessions recorded for the members with the Deloitte gentleman? Yes, we'll record that for the members to participate in, or to hear the replay. So perfect. And I think he does want to do some recruiting. So, come with your makeup on and your hair done, and your good shirt on. You only have to look good from here up, right? But even I'm going to do that. I know I look a little raggedy today, but yeah, but we'll all come in, not necessarily Sunday best, but you know how Mama used to tell us, Grandma used to tell us, so show up in our best here. Okay, perfect. So Talisha, we would love for you to give us a little bit more information on what you learned today from the Women's Blockchain Group.
Yes. So again, it was the national briefing of Women of Color and Blockchain. It is an annual thing put on by the Women in Inclusion policymaker. Cleve Medisor is the head of that, and she does a wonderful job. The very first one was 2019. It was in person, of course, when the world was still open. So they got together, had the congressional hearing, had a lot of different speakers. Dawn Dixon actually spoke to the members of Congress with regard to, again, the solvency of blockchain. And so today we did a virtual session, which was amazing. Again, different senators and Congress people from the US came and gave their understanding of it to those individuals who were really pushing for crypto as well as blockchain technology to be introduced in bills to really push forward the new technology as it stands and how it helps their constituents. So I think one of the most interesting little takeaways was one of the panel had discussions were talking about how the web has developed. So she said Web 0.1 made us consumers, and we can all agree it did. It made us be like, oh, okay, now I can do this. Web 2 made us creators. And I thought that was a very interesting kind of take on it, because that's when the rise of social media, and we became content creators by just participating. But Web 3.0 is going to give us ownership. She said it makes us owners. So going from a consumer to an owner in a 3 iteration span, obviously over decades of time, gives you the perspective of where we're going. And I thought that kind of encapsulated everything that we were doing, because that's truly what we're trying to do from a standpoint of being Black. We need to move through those things because we have that creator part, but we haven't monetized that. So that still makes us consumers if you're not owning anything. So that whole look of how the technology truly needs to be reiterated in our business models, that's what was the main takeaway for me, is that, again, and the theme of this was small businesses as the engine to the crypto economy. Why it's so important, because that's where innovation happens. Small businesses are where everything happens. They're the most agile. They can make those pivots really quickly, and they're looking to service their community. That was another strong point, because enterprises, they become so big and laborious that it's hard to do anything for anybody beside their shareholders. And we've seen that over and over again. Whereas small businesses really do participate and give back to the communities and to their customers. And that's why they need that support. They need support physically from individuals like us. Like the 10K had a wonderful pitch Monday. That's what they need. They just need you to participate. That's really the part of it. It's really not so even much about like giving money. It's really showing up and utilizing the tool. And the individuals here were speaking of it from a policy standpoint, what they could do to make those things much more easier and effective. We even had the SEC FinHub representative come, which again was a very interesting thing. You kind of knew about them, but you didn't know what they did. Like I couldn't really figure out. And then she said, we're here for fintech. She's like, that's really what we're here. That's why we had to separate ourselves from the establishment, because this is so new that we can't even go by that role. That organization was started in 1932, that division of the government. And so she was like, yeah, we can't even utilize those rules anymore. We had to become a separate body. And so they do their independent body now. And they talk about how they do the innovation. Like you can go in there and literally speak to them before you say, hey, I got a blockchain project. And they'll walk through it with you to say, that's legally sound. That might not be a good idea. that might not be permissible, but they're doing it in a different way because they know that the technology requires a much more symbiotic relationship right now than just legislation, rule, and then you just do what you need to do. There now needs to be co-creation. And I think this is again, the best time to start a business. because they're willing to help you start that business. Everyone is here. There's enough information. And again, now we're moving to that ownership. So not only are you owning a business, but you're owning the process. And I think that's the strongest takeaways that I got from today.
So that's interesting. So first of all, I love the FinHub, section being separate. And we had, Tawana and I had a conversation earlier today with an attorney who was reviewing 638 pages of SEC code for us with regards to some things we're doing with 10K. And a lot of it is still murky, a lot of it is, yes, you got to go back to case law and this and that, but
we talked a lot about that.
I'm sorry?
We talked a lot about that.
Yes.
And that was, again, we had Maureen Murat, which our community is familiar with, talking about the legal structure of it, like what things make it harder. And like she said, one of the things the statistic was 50% of new blockchain businesses are spending their money on legal fees. So the fact, like she said, you don't even want to create anything because half of your budget is already just wrapped up in can I make it? You can't even move through that process without having that compliance portion in there. And so they were like, that's where the law, they need a little more definitiveness or framework rather than, because they're like, even if it's bad, at least you know what the standard is. But right now it's so murky that it's so hard to move. And they're spending, if you're charging $200 an hour for your lawyer, he's going to rack up a really big bill because there's just
they cost more than that. They're $350.
Yeah, I'm just like, it's amazing to think of that. But when she said that, that was a really interesting point. Like, this is the inhibitor. So the barrier to entry of sometimes even some of the innovation is crafted by they don't know what to do. They know what they want to do, but they don't know if they can do it. And then they have to spend their wheels trying to find that. And that's a strong inhibitor because the minute you say, oh, you got a patent, you got to do all this, you got to have this lawyer do it, they instantly say, never mind, it's not worth my time. And I don't have that money. So and
when we got started, there were STOs. So you were able to go out and put your token out and raise money. Now, yes, there were a lot of fraudulent ones, but there were a lot of great projects. They may not have made it, but at least at that point, you were able to build community and raise capital at the same time. So you were able to mitigate some of that. But when the SEC came and shut that down, that also, didn't help the process either, because now you got to go back to venture capitalists. And with us, they, less than 1% of us get any kind of funding from VCs. And it's, about the same from any kind of angel investor. And I had a group call me, group of 5 entrepreneurs call me. They had an idea in the crypto space. And I said, you have to talk to an attorney because I don't even know if you can do that in the United States. And they had no idea. So, I've been contacting them back and forth for the past 6 weeks, and they're still trying to figure out the law, if they can even do it. So what you're saying is really...
Yeah, it was amazing to hear. But I think some of the things that Eric and I talk about a lot with regard to, how does tokenization really come in? Where does that help the small business? We just reiterated over and over again how strongly that could instantly impact a small business, even from the startup community to brick and mortars, what that could do to literally change the trajectory of their business. And I think that's another thing where, people want something to help. Like they're like, oh, can this really help? And they're like, yes, it can. But you're having that conversation where they're still not understanding how. And even if you explain it to them, they're still not really getting it and grasping that concept. But these individuals are like, this is where education comes in. This is why we have to be very vigilant in making it palpable, because, you're talking about technology, you're talking about digital money and programmable money and all of those things. Those just seem like far-fetched kind of concepts. Whereas, like you said, if this can help you, this literally can help this business do this because they can accept payment. That makes it reasonable for most people. You're not saying, cross-border payment. They can accept things from, different without the transaction fees, which are the things that kill small businesses. So when you make it relevant to what they're doing, I think there was that push too, like having those conversations with the right people, but with the right language. instead of just talking about the technology, which we talk about here. Like, no one wants to talk about it because that's not what you need to talk about. You need to talk about the business. And one of those things that was reiterated was that blockchain is about business outcomes. It's not about technology. It's always going to be about business outcomes. And that's where we need to focus. And I was like, if there was nothing better, we've said this for 3 years, that this is our focus. It's the business of blockchain that really makes the difference. The technology is really secondary and ancillary to getting the thing taken care of.
Yeah. Well, I will say, the United States right now, they never say it out up front. At least I haven't heard an official administration person say it up front. But I would imagine behind the scenes, our country has to be looking at other countries worldwide and looking at internally, the birth rate in this country is, not what it was. Like, we're not replacing ourselves. And, unfortunately, a lot of kids in school, not just Black kids, but some of the white kids too, are falling behind in math and sciences. And, they have to be looking at 50 years from now, are we going to be positioned to still be a world leader? And what is it going to take for us to make sure that we keep the ingenuity that we've always had, in the world? So I would imagine, at least I would think, I would hope, let me say that, I would hope that some of the business discussions that are being had on the government level is also ways that we're able to use blockchain in order to maybe incentivize young people, with regards to taking certain types of classes and learning things, or I don't know. I mean, I have no idea how they think and how they forecast, but that would be an interesting discussion to have as well with some insiders.
Moving in this space, and again, it was reiterated again that it's not always the technical aspects. Like I said, there are so many jobs that really require a whole host of things. And across the board, we're talking about business innovation. To run a business, you need a whole lot of people. It's not just the tech people. So I think it was really interesting that, again, that the topic of small business really being the center and also the purview of everything that we need to do to rebound and to gain strength. So it was a twofer in that sense, where everything was like the small business is where it's at. Yes, the enterprises are doing their enterprise things, but it's really the small business that are going to make that change.
So we have, I'm sorry, go ahead, Eric. And then we have a question in YouTube from Permaculture Mom. So I'm coming back to you, Permaculture. Go ahead, Eric.
Well, this is one thing I am going to say about, for a lot of people, they still need to understand and, the philosophical components that undergird blockchain itself. And, Felicia, like you've been saying this for, from the very beginning, it's not just about the technology itself, but it's also the philosophical, underpinnings of it. And, I'm just going to say this, and I'll tell you flat out, tokenization is going to eat the world. Like I 100% believe that. Just like that, the old, not even the old accent, you can't say that, but because it's happened where we said software would eat the world. Tokenization is going to eat the world. I see this happening right now. Some people now still aren't receptive to it, and they're still listening and kind of having very negative reactions to it. But to me, they should be looking and understanding how to incorporate tokenization. Of course, they don't separate it from blockchain. It is an application attribute of blockchain itself, but they should be looking at how to do it and how to incorporate it into their businesses. It will completely change their businesses in so many ways. The creativity, the flexibility that it allows for any small business to operate and to bring it in, I think is just, to me, on an entirely different level. But, there is having that conversation with people over how then to utilize. I know, Alicia, you were talking like another last in the circle about some people that were coming up to you and talking about they want to launch your own coin and that sort of thing. I mean, Listen, that's not it.
That's not it. That's correct.
That's not it. That's not what we're talking about. But there are so many things. See, tokenization allows us to have coordination across networks. And this is so powerful in the digital realm of understanding then how to utilize it. I'm just going to say this too, and I'm just going to put this idea out there. Like, I don't care if somebody can take it, you can go utilize it, use it yourself, whatever. I don't care. But, listen, for those of us of a certain age, everyone, like, you remember that the Black social media platform called Black Planet. You remember that?
Very well.
Right. All right. So listen. So you see that they are about to reintroduce themselves to the market. Yes. Yes, Sheree. They're about to do that. Now, as I watch it, I look at something like that. I'm like, oh my gosh, you guys should do that with tokenization, with a governance token that would allow those people who are contributing and bringing value to that network and all the myriad of ways that they bring that. Every time someone logs in, has a conversation, talks about whatever they're going to talk about, as what happens on social media platforms, they're bringing value to that platform. That value, as Talisha, you just said, us becoming owners, Black people could own then the network itself. But once again, see, this is a conversation, and Talisha, you talked about again, A Real Business of Blockchain, the book itself. It talked about us being able to do that, but you would, really sit down with people and have them understand that. Right now, for a lot of people, they want all of the value to be kind of done in the same way Facebook and everyone else is done, where, there are the founders and founders get rich and you make them rich because you keep adding value every time you log in and have conversation, post your pictures and post your videos and that sort of thing. It needs to be reoriented back using blockchain, using tokenization, and that would be transformative now. And you want to talk about migrating people from those other platforms into that one, you could probably do it.
Yeah.
That's the best incentivization.
It is. So there is a question from Permaculture Mom here on YouTube. What do you all suggest for accepting Bitcoin, Bitcoin Cash, and other crypto? I want to accept it for my business. I mean, personally, I would say Bitcoin, definitely. I don't have an opinion about Bitcoin Cash or any of the others besides Bitcoin and Ethereum. I personally would just try to keep it pretty mainstream, but that's me. And then, just read the fine lines, especially if you're taking Bitcoin via PayPal. Or not fine lines, fine print. Sorry. If you are not able to move your Bitcoin to a cold wallet or your Trezor or something like that, all I'm going to say is you don't really own it then at that point. But Talisha and Eric can definitely chime in with regards to this.
So you can choose whatever crypto that you want, and that has to be a choice based upon your business needs and what you really want to leverage. There's also, depending on how your website is built, there are also plugins that allow you to directly do that. So just like you would click the button, it'll have the drop down for whatever you want it to be so that you can accept that on the back end. So there's other aspects to it, but you need to make sure that it's incorporated into your actual website. I wouldn't try to do a third party because that is, again, going to kill your fees. And again, there are certain aspects of just the governance of your own money, and definitely always have your sovereign wallets. That's something that's really important at this point in time, so that you want to be able to, make sure that you can pull that, and also to have your compliance officer as well as your accountant look at that, because again, these are fees coming in. This is considered revenue for you, but again, the liquidity of it is not the same. So that's all those things that you need to consider before you just put the button up there, that you need to make sure that you understand what you're going to be using it for, if it's a store of value, if you're holding it in reserves, and then subsequently the compliance of, can you accept that certain places, like again, you can't do certain transactions from certain states. And they, it's a lot of different things. So if you have a global business, sometimes that may be an inhibitor. Sometimes it's a great thing. And also, again, making sure that you have your accountant look to see how you're going to, if you're doing the exchange of that that you're taking that crypto into a fiat state, and then what those taxes are for you, that tax limitation.
Yeah. Eric?
No, I was going to say, I totally like everything Felicia just outlined there. And I will say we are moving, I'm expecting at any moment. We've already seen this where banks are now going to talk about being custodians of stable coins. And that also is going to be that's going to be a real change for a lot of businesses in a lot of ways. And especially the fact of we see that there are, and this maybe doesn't directly address her question, but it is kind of somewhat adjoined to it. And it's going to be the fact that there are, when you look at the rates, the interest rates that are being paid on stable coins, I mean, those are what the interest rates should have been when we're looking at 8%, 10%, and that sort of thing. So that's one thing that I would say to her to look into that, as because you may want to decide, hey, you know what? We're going to keep 5% of the business's cash in stable coins and get 10% interest on it. So yeah.
And I'll answer Trinity's question because it goes kind of along there.
Okay.
This is where stable coins are different. And that's why I think this is where the terminology becomes really important. There's cryptocurrency and then there's stable coins, which aren't really, they're just digital assets. They are just the digital form of the money. So in the sense of they're not really participating in the decentralization because they're staked to something and therefore they're controlled by a central bank. That's why you have the CDBCs. All of those are truly not cryptocurrencies. They are truly just digital assets. And I know that's going to be like my sticking point, but that really does tell you what you're doing and who has the control over them also. Because if they're staked to something, that stable coin really isn't considered. I mean, it's going to be talked about in the same general aspect, but it's not the same. And so our CDBCs, they're going to have that same kind of feel, but they're really just digitized assets of the dollar or whatever currency that you're looking for. So again, the central bank has that and they'll have the control over that just like they have control of your fiat currency. So if you have something in your bank and you don't, you mess up the number, they can take some of it out or, all of those things still apply in that aspect because again, it's not a decentralized environment.
Mm-hmm. Totally. Yeah.
So then let's move to, we talked about the three aspects of the business of blockchain. The first one was tokenization, which Eric is tokenized maximizer?
Tokenization maximalist.
Maximalist, yes. Okay. Let's talk about smart contracts though for a second. So, people expect by 2023 smart contracts to be 300 million in revenue. So there's going to be a lot of business happening there. It's going to be in the billions of dollars in the next 10 years. And, all sorts of things from smart cities to all sorts of smart contracts dealing with land rights and, even what Eric is involved with, music publishing and all sorts of legal structures. Even though a lawyer did say just because a smart contract doesn't mean it's a contract or it's smart, right? So it is still a program and garbage in, garbage out. However, I personally believe that tokenization is going to definitely be one of the big rising stars within the blockchain industry, but very, very close behind, and what can be very lucrative for people is smart contracts. The other thing with smart contracts is tightly, very close to IoT, Internet of Things as well. And we know IoT is really coming as well. So this is going to be a multi-billion dollar, if not ultimately $1 trillion industry within blockchain too. And I'd love for the two of you to talk a little bit about what your thoughts are with regards to the business of smart contracts, some of the things that people may want to look out for, things like that, stuff the two of you have been reading, et cetera, listening to.
I mean, like one thing I'm going to say about smart contracts is smart contracts bring in one of, I guess, one of the promises that have always been talked about within blockchain, and that is the disintermediation, where you are now going to remove middlemen or rent seekers that have been in the middle, and now being able to execute these business transactions purely with code. That premise, I think we are only going to see that increase further and further and further, away. Like where that ends up at, in terms of certain businesses, now do they do away with certain personnel and then have that executed purely with code? I guess we'll see. I guess we'll see as adoption continues to grow and to widen. Yeah.
I would just tie it back to tokenization, just with the NFTs is a prime example of where that smart contract really comes into play. And I talk about, right now the NFT market is hot from I always say from the art and entertainment, but it was one of the very first use cases. Totally. And it was really for legal processing. It was for contracts and authenticity, land rights, things that you could just do. And that's where the programmability came in, because I could sell you something and control it at different periods of time for different things. So we talk about ticketing. I know we just talked to Mark Cuban said that, he would love to get their whole aspect, they want to do a blockchain for their ticketing. That has a whole lot of ramification with regard to how many times the resales can happen. If I want to, you're the 10th purchaser and you get a pizza party because you purchased it, all of that is programmed through a smart contract because it's keeping tabs on that. There's an exchange there. And so these kind of things also become prevalent even in the smallest thing. Because I look at like the non-sexy things, like school lunch programs, nobody really thinks about that until you're the person, like, hey, what? Yeah, like I said, I would see my daughter's account and I'm like, I just put $200. Why does she eat $200 in a week? Like, I don't know that. But those kind of things, that could be a symbiotic thing where that smart contract tells me all the things at different times and then says, okay, I can automatically refill or I can do it out. I don't have to even mediate that on my own. That could be something that I just set up at the beginning of the year, set it and forget it, and let that whole contract go along. And I have the NFT because my daughter swipes her card every day, right? So there's those kind of things become possible, and they're kind of little nothing things, but those nothing things are really the benchmark for all of the adoption. Because while the hot, sexy stuff is great, that's like $10,000, $100 million kind of stuff. We're talking about 30 cents a day, $1.50 here, a muffin, a this. You want that loyalty program. You're going to go to Starbucks regardless, but wouldn't it be nice if you got some tokens? And how many times? You need that also to be programmed into that NFT. So that's where it becomes not just, it's just an item that I get to say it's mine. I get to use it. It's going to do something for me in a calculated, concise way based upon this smart contract. So that's where that merger happens. And this is where I think we get caught up in the singular applications of blockchain, but they always cross a lot. That's why there's 5 pillars. Those pillars mean something together much more than they do just singular. Like they have their own purview. But when you start to combine them, yes, that book right there, if you want to know everything you know is in that book. I reference that book every single day. I reference that book today, actually. But that's the key part, is that when we start to look at those, there's optimization and there's utilization. We're utilizing bits and pieces. So right now we're utilizing the aspect of the cryptocurrency. That's hot. We're utilizing a very small slither of the tokenization with the NFTs. But then there's other things, the decentralization, the encryption, all of those things that undergird those and then make the things possible that we have to think about that we typically don't, because we're like, oh, that doesn't happen. We don't get to do that now. But now we can, because we have the technology to support it.
Can I just say, Felicia, because this is the thing, because you mentioned NFTs, and I could just talk endlessly on those alone. Like when when I say that tokenization is going to eat the world, NFTs are a big part of the Pac-Man itself.
Yes, they are.
It's because of that. Like in NFTs, non-fungible tokens that allow us to truly own just every form of IP, every form of digital media you could possibly, imagine. And I will say this, there are some people, there are still, and I'm talking about people that have been in crypto, who have been in blockchain for quite some time, that are still quite dismissive of NFTs. And I think that is a big mistake. To me, you're just wrong if you're doing that. You're just flat out wrong. You're just,
before.
yeah, you're just wrong.
Oh, it's fake. It's fool's gold. I mean, we're going to have the same conversation over and over. It's going to become really redundant because everything has to come to that forefront. So again, like, oh, crypto, there's no such thing. It's fake. It's all, everything was about nothing being it. And everybody has turned that corner. Even the naysayers of naysayers have turned that corner and said, well, it has some viability, even if it's just that. That's all we're going to do. And NFTs are the same thing because they weren't on anybody's radar, even though it's been a use case for a very, very long time. It just didn't reach this kind of, I would say, this paramount. And this is what happens when people are like, oh, it just blew up out of nowhere. It really didn't. You're just finding out about it. Didn't mean that it wasn't in existence. We've had this throughout history where I just discovered. No, you didn't discover. You just found out. There's a difference.
Yeah, so I want to show this again to everybody, Talisha, while you're talking.
Okay.
Yeah, because this is precisely what you're talking about here. Go ahead.
This is it. This is where we are. And this is kind of how we are. NFTs began quite some time, right around 2010. That was where they were coming because, again, people wanted to wrap the information around something to really prove authenticity was really the biggest thing. So property rights to anything. So real estate, art, their own IP, everything was happening. And now, like I said, that didn't take off that much until now. Now it has its resurgence in the sense that it became something much more simplistic. The tech became easier to use. And that's how everything is. As soon as the tech becomes easier, now we have something else that we can do. So it's like, oh, I can just create, like if you go back and watch our interview with Douglas Pepe, with Mango Farms, Asset Farms, and that was amazing. And you could just sit down in 10 minutes, create an NFT, there you have it. It makes it very simple and cheap to do it. Now everybody's on that board, and that's what happens.
Yeah.
So it moves rapidly.
And I'm sorry, Eric. And when we have Bettina come later on in the month, that's that user interface UX UI person as well. And this goes right into what Talisha's talking about. Mainstream adoption happens when the back end works seamlessly and it's getting faster. The transactions, there are more transactions that can be processed now than ever, even though it still has a ways to go. And the front interface works. And Bettina has said, so the reason she's coming back is because she said, Cherie, the last time I was here, which was like 18 months ago, there's so much that's happened with regards to user experience since then. And I think I should come and give everyone an update. So what Talisha's saying is right in line with Bettina. And that's why we're going to have her come. But go ahead, Eric.
No, I was going to say that I remember last April, I posted this in the BBC Inner Circle that, there was an artist and I don't know if everyone is familiar with the Bad Crypto Guys podcast, and they did a virtual conference and he was on the virtual conference. And, of course, it's occurred right down during the COVID lockdown. And I remember him, saying on the virtual conference and making a comment that he said, hey, NFTs, this was last April. He said, let me tell you something. NFTs are going to give people the possibility to have the same asymmetric upside that they had for people who bought Bitcoin very early on. And people, I'm sure, saw that and dismissed it. But I just recently on the podcast was listening to the founders of Nifty Gateway. Nifty Gateway, if you're not familiar, is one of the premier NFT platforms. The Winklevoss twins are the initial investors in it. And I was listening to the co-founders, and one of the co-founders was saying, hey, I bought some NFTs. Now he's a co-founder. This is a person immersed in the space. He said, I bought some NFTs I bought 10 of them for $40 each. And I gave them to my friends and family, okay, in October. I bought them in October, sent them to my friends and family. Hey, this is so you can get yourself acclimated. He said, do you know what they're going for right now? $20,000. He said, I choked when I looked at the price.
That's a great gift. Great.
I couldn't believe.
He is.
I was like, should I be your friend?
those are the things that are happening in the space. And I think that's where I think it's very interesting, because today Rolling Stone, everybody knows the Rolling Stone magazine, has featured the Kings of Leon are actually putting their album. They're going to be the first album on an NFT, the whole thing. They've already decided.
Very cool.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. Like, it went from nobody cares, it's not real, nobody can do anything, and we're moving, and the time span is smaller. We're moving quicker.
Now, when Cardi or Meg the Stallion or what, because that'll be sooner rather than later, then all of a sudden the Black community, the hip hop community is going to explode with this. What is this thing? You know, Jay-Z, even Jay, it could be Jay-Z or somebody like that who does it. We have a couple of great questions in YouTube. Prudence is asking, can you break down what NFT means? What does non-fungible mean?
So non-fungible token is, no, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I want you to take it because you're the maximalist.
No, I was going to say, like, non-fungible token is every single digital, any digital item, whatever. And now we're looking at even items within the physical world itself can be represented in the digital realm. Every single one of those items is going to have its own unique passport, okay, on the blockchain itself. So think of it like as, you know, we may look at like the Mona Lisa, we see prints of the Mona Lisa, we see, you know, that sort of thing, but there's only one Mona Lisa there at the Louvre in France. So each token, each item itself is represented in its own uniqueness on the blockchain itself. And that's in the most simplest, you know, definition for NFT.
And then Jared is asking, should business owners continue to lease domains annually from third parties like GoDaddy, or convert them to NFTs to fully own them as digital assets on top of smart contracts?
Oh, well, I would just say for that, everybody on this panel, early on last year, we all acquired NFTs, and that was the unstoppable domains.
Yeah.
And I would say for him to look into that. Look into that now. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Like that.
We got ours. You can go back and look at Black Blockchain Consultants. We bought ours. I remember mine was like $80 because I bought like the higher priced one. But yeah, I mean, like your first name may be available these days. You know, I bought my first name. So yeah.
I have a few of them now. I have my daughter's, myself, my business name. I have everything in that.
I have all of those too.
And it's Unstoppable Domains gives you the .crypto, and that's the distinguishing mark. But yes, you can do that. And I also said these are where you have to have a business strategy before you do anything. And I think that's where the technology is always going to be here. So you don't have to worry like, ooh, I need to get it right now. It's going to be there. What you need to decide is how you're going to leverage the technology. What is this in it for you? Because it could be much more viable for you to have something on WordPress and whatever. Make sure that you can have the plugin to collect your Bitcoin or whatnot, because all of these things aren't ready, you know, all go together right at this point. So the business strategy would really dictate to you what type of web service you get, because that's just with any business. I'm like, what do you want? Do you want WordPress, or do you want GoDaddy? Do you want Bluehost? Do you want this? All of those are conversations that always happen for every single consumer and every business owner. Then we can start to stack. Okay, you need to do this. Okay, this is why you would got to choose that. Smart contracts are something that are their code, so they're not really built into anything. They're going to be executable. So you're going to have to call them, and that's where your API needs to come in. Do you have an API that can make that call? That's really those kind of things. So that's the technical side of it. So I would just say go to Unstoppable Domains first and grab the domain that you want.
Yes, and hold on to it. Yeah, I have mine like stored away. So
have it forever. And then somebody may want to buy it, because a gentleman has done that already. He bought a whole big bunch of them, McDonald's and Chick-fil-A's and all of those. So now people are always going to do that. So that's why I said just keep the name that's yours. If you want your business, you know what your business even tentatively is going to be, register it and just get it there and then keep it.
Yeah, and Johnny, yes, you can still buy them. Unstoppable Domains. There's a couple other places as well, but we got all of ours from Unstoppable Domains.
One of the panelists, she is from Unstoppable Domains, one of the delegates. that
Oh,
I'm
dude.
Oh, cool.
she's really, she's like, that's great. And I'm like, I love you. I got like 5. She's like, great. She's like, I have 10. I'm like, great.
Yeah, and the great thing about
she's like, I want everybody. She's like, all my kids. I'm like, there you go. That's what you do.
the great thing about them as well is you don't pay an annual fee. You buy it once and it's yours. So I like that too. So, oh, there was something else I wanted to say. And oh, yes. As Talisha was talking, this came into my head. We've talked for 3 years about picking a niche, or picking a major is what I always say. Picking a niche is the other term for it. And what I mean by that, for everyone who's new, is if you've ever gone to college, freshman and sophomore year, you take your general studies, and then in junior year, you pick a major and you go deep and you study that subject in order to create a career, or start a career in whatever it is that you have chosen to study. Talisha did a great job of really taking a step back and showing the mind of what I call a generalist, which is, in her case, she was talking about it from a business process point of view and a business strategy point of view. And in fact, I'm hiring a business process person myself in my primary business to help me do something I should have done 3 or 4 years ago, but I can't grow without it. And I just want to encourage people as well that you may decide, tokenization is not for you. Smart contracts is not for you. But you may decide you want to hang up your shingle and be a business process person and figure out how companies use their data in the future, and be a generalist and understand blockchain and understand AI and some of the other technologies that are forthcoming that help people, we call it, take in data, manipulate it, move it around, et cetera, protect it. And I just wanted to throw that out there as well. Talisha and Eric, if you all have something to say about that, just giving people ideas of how they could hang up their shingles.
I'm going to say, just choose something that really interests you, something that really just, you say, I need to learn more about it. You're not going to learn it in a day. There's too much information. And I think that's where the setting of the expectations, as I've been talking to people for the last couple of weeks, there is a desire to know it all. And there's no such thing. There just isn't. I've been in this space for quite some time, and I don't know it all. I know a lot about what I do, but every day, but this takes a lot of time. And I think that's where other people don't really, they want that just information to just kind of be blasted to them. It's not, it changes very quickly. There are nuances to this. I spend about 2 hours of my day each and every day consuming information to ensure that I'm giving the right information. And then there's some vocational practice, and I have a job and a child and everything else. So it's not just something that you're just gonna, what do I do? How do I do it? It's never going to be that simple. So you need to really know that you want to try something, is to kind of look, read some articles, see some other things that you like, and then have conversations with individuals. And I think that's why this group is really important, because we can start to level set you, because you can go here one day and then you're like, in the next minute you're somewhere else. So that's where I think the collaboration of knowing what you want to do and how you want to do it, and then having those conversations will really be helpful for you to kind of then, kind of narrow the scope a little bit. Being a generalist is very challenging. I will tell you that. I mean, I've been in the tech industry for 22 years at this point. So for me, I kind of base everything off of the same principles and then try to apply where I can see the similarities. But it's very, very challenging, because you got to stay abreast of everything. So if you want to be a generalist in a certain area, kind of niche it down a little bit, like smart contracts, you can talk about them. Like Eric is a tokenization person. He knows all about the token from every different aspect. That's considered, to me, he's a generalist because he knows a lot about it, but there's a very specific, he's a generalist in the tokenization. That's why he's the maximus in that. He knows tokens in and out. That's the process that you're looking for. So I would say, just encourage you to look, find things that are interesting to you. You're definitely going to have to spend some time. There's not going to just, like I said, knock you upside the head and you're going to know everything. And then you're going to have to converse. You're going to have to kind of engage and make sure that's what you're thinking, because you're going to get kind of, one information is going to tell you one thing, something else is going to tell you something else. And we got to level set that for you as well.
Eric?
Controversial statement. I'm just going to say, you're going to run into very accomplished, very successful, very intelligent people who don't know what they're talking about.
Yeah.
Just call it what it is. And that will be part of the barrier that you will have to forge and walk your way through. And most of the time, society, we look at those people and that they say, hey, this isn't going to work. That makes no sense. It's not going to happen. Usually people listen to them and don't. Well, we are on the edge right now of a new paradigm, of a new innovation that's taking place. And it is taking place. Like Talisha made the point earlier, a lot of people have capitulated now. Elon Musk, Mark Cuban, Kevin O'Leary, these are all people who are very much naysayers.
Did Kevin O'Leary really capitulate? Because last I heard, he was still...
3%. He's all in. And he said, now it's a great storage of value. He said
what?
It hurt it. It hurt his face. It looked kind of like he was hurt, but 3% of his revenue stream is in crypto. And
because last month I saw him on a podcast still poo-pooing.
Oh, well,
that was a fast turnaround. All right, Kevin.
Yeah, that's what happened.
It's going to happen.
And I guess Bitcoin turned 50,000, and he said, "Well, shoot."
Yeah, that 50,000 changed a whole lot of people's opinion. that really level set people in a different way. Like,
oh my gosh. Oh, I didn't know that. That is so this goes back to being a generalist and what Talisha is saying, staying abreast of all of this stuff. Like you can miss a lot. But yeah, I want to give you the floor, Eric. I'm sorry.
No, I mean, that's just it. That's just a point of understanding that you may, if you were talking to, whomever, it could be your boss, if you're in a company or something like that, and they're going, I don't know, if you say, hey, you know what, I think we should look at using NFTs. They may, I don't know, it doesn't make sense or whatever. I don't quite get it. They will need to take your lead and to follow you. Just recently, Forbes just put out an article for businesses of understanding, hey, you might want to look at utilizing these NFT strategies in your businesses. So this is something happening. And I think sometimes maybe even getting articles like that and even sharing that with people so that they can, see that it is. But there's always this point. We are on the edge. We are pushing forward and breaking down boundaries and barriers. And it's always been that way. All of us remember what it was like pre-internet, and when people started talking about this thing and how it was going to be integrated, I'm like, yeah, some people were like, take it or leave it. I'm fine with what I have. Well, nobody says that anymore, and this is going to happen the exact same way.
Yeah, going back to the chasm that we talk about. So,
there's a question. I think Ron has a question in the Q&A that we can just give him a little snippet.
Okay. Sorry, I almost missed that. Thank you. Right. Eric, I have a friend who is a stone sculpture artist. Can you tokenize a stone sculpture?
Yes. Yes, you can.
Yes, you can.
Yeah, the major key will be that how, and if you watch our discussion we had with Douglas Pepe, it will be how you embed that the token itself gives you a legal ownership of that physical item. And you can have that embedded into the token, but that's the key. That's the key when it comes down to these physical items like that. But yes, you can do that.
Perfect. All righty then. Wow, that is tonight's session. Oh, I see another Q&A here.
Thanks.
Oh, it's a nice thing. Okay, perfect. All right, that's tonight's session. We want to thank you for spending your Wednesday with us for this week's Blockchain Chat. We'll see you next week, same time, same place, same bat channel. Thank you, everybody here in Zoom as well as in YouTube. Night.
Good night, everybody.